Welcome to this week's spiritual health check-in. All right. Hope everyone has had a great week since last time. We have an amazing topic today, and it's one of the most deep-reaching and possibly triggering topics. And as we know, triggers are good. They point to something that is unhealed that needs attention within us. So it's never a bad thing to feel triggered. Whenever we feel triggered, we tend to just instantly push something away, push the feeling away, not reflect on ourselves at all, but blame others, blame the world, and especially blame ourselves. And then we just lock in this blame, and we start to control and steer and just try to change the world so it doesn't trigger us. And then we get basically dominated by this incessant looking out for things that trigger us and trying to avoid them. And then when they do trigger us, we just blame them. And we, conversely, the flip side of the coin is we look for things that trigger us in a positive way. We tend to think of triggers as negative, but it's also positive triggers. And then we try to have more of that, create more of those situations that evoke pleasant triggers in us. And so we spend all our day running through this world, never really going within, but working at the surface. So working with people, places, and things, our environment, and trying to get more of that, which triggers us in a pleasant way, and less of that, avoid that triggers us in a negative way. So we never go deeper. And as a result, we stay in this place of reactivity, because this is essentially what this is reacting to things. And more specifically, you're not reacting to the people, places, and things so much. You're reacting to the feeling, the trigger that these people, places, and things evoke in us. So it's never about the things out there. It's always about the things in here. So victimhood, today's topic, is all about, it's a collection of our triggers, essentially. And you could call it reactivity. You could also call it limiting beliefs. These things that trigger us are essentially all beliefs that we have about ourselves and the world, that the nature of them, the character, is one of limitation, of feeling not enough, of you feeling like you're not good enough, of feeling like the world is not enough. This was one of my big triggers growing up, is feeling like the world did not accommodate me, someone like myself. It was not a place of acceptance and where one was allowed to just be. And growing up outside of kind of the social norms and moving around a lot, I didn't fit into any particular patterns or social models and cultures. And as such, I blamed the world for not being fit enough to accommodate me. And that's a state of victimhood. It's just a way of blaming everything that goes wrong in your life on something. In my case, it was external. Maybe that's better than blaming yourself, thinking there's something wrong with you. Still not a great state to be in. The self-blame, the self-victimhood, is one of the hardest things to let go of. It's so deeply ingrained in your identity. Again, they're just limiting beliefs, but they're limiting beliefs about yourself. And those are hard to let go of. Your identity is so intertwined with these thoughts, these beliefs, that you can't see beyond them. You think that's you. You think this is who I am, and this is how it's going to be forever. Again, the mind is the culprit. It likes to take snapshots of permanence, make statements of foreverness. And that's really what freaks us out so much. If we really look closely, this idea that something is going to be something forever, or that you're this or that forever. And to be in that mindset is a negative spiral downward. So how to identify all of these self-limiting beliefs, these statements of victimhood, I'm not enough, others are, this way or that way, and they don't see me this way or that way. It can be one of the toughest challenges, because we're not where we want to be. We're not as healthy as we want to be, and as we could be. We're not as balanced as we want to be and could be, because of these states of victimhood, because of these self-limiting beliefs. So they are what keeps us in the state that we're in, where we feel like we're not enough. And because of the identification with these I'm not enough thoughts, I'm not good enough, I'm not there yet, I should be here, I should be that, by now we compare ourselves to age and other people. And that's really the culprit, at the root of this I'm not good enough feeling, is living through the head. The mind, that's what it does. It looks around and compares. It's all it does. It's always looking to compare A to B to C to D. And you're comparing yourself to A to B to C to D. You're comparing yourself to your neighbors, comparing yourself to your favorite celebrities and entertainers, or people that have made it, quote unquote, in your industry or your field. There's this constant, incessant comparison. And it's not a bad thing per se. That's how the mind works. It's just how it works. If you empower it with the full responsibility to lead the way, it's going to try its best. And its best is comparing yourself to others all the time. And so invariably, you'll see, especially from the outside, from afar, you'll see people that are better or taller or more good looking or more successful or more talented. I mean, the mind will find something that is, because it's constantly comparing, and you'll just find someone or some situation that is better than who you are right now, or the situation you're in currently. That's just natural if you're using a tool such as the mind that is designed to compare. That's all I can do. So if you're living from that mental place, you're always going to find somebody that makes you feel less. And you'll always see an example that you're not good enough and somebody else is better. And of course, that's pure projection. Even at the purely mental level, that's pure projection, to see others and think they've got it better. To see them in, on Instagram, certainly, but just in life. And if you're tuned into the frequency of victimhood, of I'm not good enough, then you will see that everywhere you look. And you'll just walk down the street and you'll be tuned to seeing others who've got it better than you, and who seemingly have a better life. They have what you want, and so forth. This is just the tuning. It's not, if you actually stop to talk to them, then you'd be very surprised. It could be a completely different reality for them, different picture. Everyone's got stuff they're struggling with. Anyone who operates through the head, who lives in their head, who's trying to navigate life through the mind, trying to chase their happiness, achieve things to soothe their inner wounds, which is most people, who haven't yet discovered the inner path of self-realization, their personal growth journey. Unless you've embraced that and started to go deep, every single person will have very similar struggles. And those are around self-worth and love, self-love, being loved, giving love, somewhere around that. Those are the core struggles everyone has to deal with if they're living life through the head. And no one is exempt from that. I write in one of my new books that even Jesus and the Buddha were born into this mental place of comparing themselves. They had to go through incredible journeys of struggle and anxiety and discovery and self-development in order to get to, the final stage of enlightenment. So nobody is exempt. It's part of the human condition. In fact, that's essentially the story of Adam and Eve. They were one, they were part of the Garden of Eden, they were in paradise, they were part of unity consciousness, part of God. And then they tasted a fruit from the tree of knowledge, which essentially signifies the moving into the mind, starting to judge things and label things and define things and think things. And this thinking resulted in a separation from that unity consciousness, from God, and the expulsion ultimately from the Garden of Eden. So you lose your connection to paradise, really, essentially, when you start thinking, when you start living through the mind, when you start using that mind as a tool to navigate and try to make wise decisions with. And the mind is a tool that you should use. It doesn't know you. It has no wisdom inherently. That wisdom lies in your body. So issues of victimhood and self-worth and confidence and disorientation, confusion, not knowing where you're going, where your life is headed, not being connected to any passions. All of this stuff comes from living in your head, being disconnected from the greater cloud, the creative cloud. Artists speak about this all the time. They're not ultimately the ones writing the material or creating the art. They're downloading it, and they are vehicles and expressions. And creativity is one of the core essences of life, of aliveness. Every good decision is a creative decision, because if you're just operating again from what you know, you're just going to repeat old patterns. But creativity means newness, means freshness. It means you're introducing something that is being evoked from the situation in front of you, not some past experience that you're pulling in through a memory. But creativity is the unfolding of life right in front of you, and it kind of speaks to you. Something jumps out at you. There's a new ingredient in that, because every moment is new. Every moment is different. It's never, no moment has happened before. It's always new. It's a beautiful thing. Nothing to be afraid of. Yet the mind is so freaked out by this newness, this unknownness. And really, it's just an invitation to collaboration, to collaborate with the most powerful, most creative partner you could ever imagine. So, but when we're mired in our smallness, our victimhood of I'm not good enough, that's hard to see. And it takes some hard work to get out of that. And the funny thing is that your acceptance of yourself is the first step to change. And until you accept yourself, then you're just going to be stuck in that place of wanting to be different, wanting to be your true self, wanting to have discovered your real purpose in life and have a meaningful application of yourself experience every day. and have great relationships and the abundance that you know you deserve, and just real meaning in your experience. When somebody says, how's life treating you, how's it going, that you can reflect on that in those moments, those few moments that, it's kind of nice to reflect on how things are going. Typically you want to be forward oriented. Typically the momentum of being in the flow keeps you out of the past. It doesn't make you think of the past. It also doesn't make you think of the future. Just being in this wide open receiving mode state of not entire thoughtlessness, but a lot fewer thoughts, a lot less thinking about what's going to happen. If you just narrow it down to the useful thoughts, operational, organizational, taking in inputs through your senses from your environment, and then executing. That the mind is an amazing tool for that. But the in-between part, the making a wise decision part, you get your inputs from your environment, from the situation. You need the brain, the mind to process all that and convert external stimuli into sensations and feelings. But then what you do with that before you make a decision is the key. Everyone, again, struggles with the same kind of life situations at various times in life, various degrees. It's a question of what do you make of it? How do you respond to those situations? That's what differentiates those who stay in victimhood from those who finally come out of it. And you have to find a way to be. Acceptance doesn't mean you're just going to accept, oh, I'm this way and I'm going to stay this way forever. It means this is how I am right now. I have to accept that. If I'm thinking, if there's resistance in you to how you are, who you are right now, it's going to keep you from being able to move beyond it. So you have to find a way to accept and be at peace. Okay, this is the situation. It's just think of it as a temporary acceptance. Meaning, all right, this is the circumstance right now. What can I do to improve it? 1 degree, 1%. Just baseline acceptance, and then go from there. And much of the weight that we carry, you'll find, is not the actual circumstance. It's what we put on our interpretation, our narrative, what we put on top of all that. That's what makes it feel so impossible to get out of. Oh, I'm never going to, this is so much work. It's going to take forever. All this stuff is most of the weight that we feel when we have trouble moving forward. It's our narrative. And the best and only way to dissolve that narrative is to become aware of it. It's just thoughts. It's just beliefs. And if we keep thinking them and giving our attention to them blindly, they will continue to exist and dominate us and be the primary frequency. So becoming aware of these thoughts means you're no longer identified with these self-limiting beliefs. And then you start to gradually come out of these states of victimhood, of this or that. It's happening to me because I'm not good enough. There's a deep, intricate web there of why you're stuck in one particular place. Emotionally, spiritually, physically, it applies to everything. So finding a way to generate more self-awareness around our thoughts, again, is the key to coming out of victimhood. And then just taking responsibility. You're going to wait forever if you're waiting for the world to kind of come around and be perfect and not trigger you in this way or that way, or the people around you to say just the right things at just the right time in just the right way, so to not feel triggered. You're going to wait forever. Do you want to wait forever, or do you want to roll up your sleeves? There's work involved, but it's 100% within your control. No one can stop you from working on yourself. And if there is a type of control that is a positive one, it's to know that your happiness is 100% within your reach. But it is also 100% your responsibility to achieve that. So this responsibility is the result of coming out of victimhood, this taking of responsibility, realizing, recognizing that, no, it's up to you to make yourself happy. And more importantly, it's not up to you actually to make yourself happy. It's up to you to not make yourself unhappy. Because our natural state is to be light and easy and joyful and flowing and co-creating with the greater current. That's our natural state, to be present, to be experiencing our senses. And then we limit that flow, limit that expansion through these over-identification with thoughts. And that's what shuts it down, and that's what makes us unhappy. That's what puts us into victimhood again, and these negative behavioral loops. So our job is really to get out of our own way and to not give our attention to the things that we don't want. Victimhood is continuously beating the drum about something that you don't like about yourself or that's not perfect in your life, and either blaming others or yourself for it. Taking responsibility is a huge, huge step out of that conundrum of being stuck in, because you're dependent on either how others think of you, what they say of you, what your circumstances are, or even tougher, dependent on your own limiting beliefs attached to what you think is reality, and how hard it is to get out of that. All right. Thank you for the nice comments there. Yes, you're responsible for your own happiness. It's from within, and not look for it outwardly. And that's okay that we start out that way. That's just kind of the human journey, the condition that initially we start looking for a happiness around ourselves. It's just one moment we're vapor, we're in spirit form. The next moment we're in this body, this three-dimensional space, and these shapes and colors and sizes and animals and vegetation and other people walking around on two stilts that we call legs. The whole thing is crazy, and the moon and the stars and sky and the white puffy clouds on top of it. They're not muddy clouds, they're white on blue. I mean, this is all such a scene from a painting that somebody, a dream that somebody dreamt up. It's absurd. And we think of it as like beautiful too. We're programmed to see that way. It's just amazing. So to be in tune with that miracle, we initially get infatuated by just the physicality of it, and that's okay. And then we seek ourselves in that physicality, in that three-dimensional space, in the external. And so our whole life journey consists of experiencing that, only to realize that we cannot find ourselves in that. And all of that mesmerizing beauty, yes, it's just an incredible miracle, but it's still only a reflection, a mirror of ourselves, our internal state. And our permanent happiness is not to be found in those external circumstances, because they're always changing. It's the flow. That's why we call it the flow, the greater current. It's the only thing permanent in life is change. It's evolving, it's growing and pulsating. The whole universe pulsates. The whole thing is mind-boggling. So there's an aliveness to it, and you can't hold it still. It's never going to stay put for you to not feel triggered in the ways that that you still need to grow. It's this constant mass of alive energy around you that is poking you and prodding you and prompting you and provocating you and provoking, and all in an effort. It wants you to join it. It wants you to come back to it, in fact, because that's where we emerge from this greater consciousness, source energy. And now it just wants you to come back and play. Come back. The world is constantly reaching out to us through our senses. It's trying to pull us into it, pull us into the detail of our environment. And here we are, we get in the way of that with our thoughts, with labeling, defining, and thinking and judging, and keeping ourselves at a distance from all of that life. And that's why we feel separate and lonely and anxious and small and depressed, and like we're not good enough, and like we're never going to make it, and there's not enough time. All of this madness. And it's not real. Life is real. It's wanting to pull us into it through our senses. All we have to do, we can, of course, meditate. It's like going to the gym. It's helpful to have your daily sit, or to journal, or to meet with a great friend and just talk things out. But ultimately, our five senses are here to pull us into the present moment all the time. And life reaching out to us, inviting us to join it, to rejoin it, and be playful and full of joy and laughter in this playground of life, and just awe, total awe that any of this exists. That is an open state. That's receiving mode. That's where life can send you abundance, because you're tuned to that and you're ready to receive it. Again, victimhood keeps you small and limited and closed off energy. You're not going to receive in that state. You're not ready to. You're too small of a container to receive all the abundance that life wants to send your way. You just have to stay open to it. Also, not get too far ahead of oneself either. That's the tricky part with manifestation and living your best life. We'll do a whole separate session on this, maybe next time. And is to know not to get too far ahead of oneself either. You got to stay in touch with life in a kind of a way where your desire, the bundle of energy of your desires doesn't get stretched too thin. If you get too far ahead of yourself, it gets too thin, and you can't really, it's like a tractor beam. And if it gets too thin, you can't really pull in, or it takes too long, or it's just too weak of a signal to pull in this massive new life existence that you're hoping for and wishing for and wanting so deeply for. So bringing something in closer to where your tractor beam can be thick and strong and decisive, and it really starts to pull in a massive bandwidth of what you want to receive, then that happens. And so, but you got to be forward looking and open-minded and open-hearted, most importantly, in touch with your intuition, your gut, your whole inner GPS system. That's something for another day. Thank you for the funny meditation meme comment. Definitely putting more of those out. So the short little memes that are often the most enjoyable. Pictures often, as they say, it's worth 1,000 words. Yeah. There's no point if you are unhappy internally and not aligned. It's like constantly being at war with yourself. That's exactly what victimhood is. It's being at war with yourself. It's feeling like you're not good enough, or believing the thoughts of others that you're not good enough. And you're just fighting. I'm this way. and I don't want to be this way. But the key moment in there is if you're fighting and you're in resistance, it won't change. You're just absorbed and occupied and dominated by this resistance energy. You can't move forward when you're in this resistance to yourself, to anything, any life situation that comes along. What you resist persists. It's a popular saying. And as long as you're in resistance, you cannot move beyond it. As long as you resist who you are and where you are, you cannot make a change. And acceptance, the tricky thing is, again, the mind thinks acceptance means that now it's going to be like this forever. You're giving it the stamp of approval of foreverness by accepting it. And again, just think of acceptance as a temporary baseline so that you can move forward, right? So accept where you are as a, okay, these are the elements I get to play with. Situation. This is the palette of colors. These are the tools in my toolbox. This is what I've got to work with. Do what you can with what you have when you have it. I think Abraham Lincoln said that. So it's just the most realistic, most grounded approach. It's the path of least resistance, in fact, approach, is to see things as they are. See the means that you have at the moment. And when you're open to that, you actually see many more tools, many more means, many more opportunities than when you're in this resistance mode. You don't actually, it feels so overwhelming to change and to grow because you're closed off to seeing the real possibilities that exist. It's part of being in that state that you feel so limited and helpless and small. But when you're actually open and you've accepted a baseline of, okay, this is where it's at right now, there's an openness to that, an openness to receiving, to seeing more, a curiosity of like, okay, how do I, a detective, put on your detective hats, like, okay, how do I get out of this? How do I expand from here? How do I change things up to keep things fresh? Just reading something about how Paul McCartney was the one who kept the Beatles going, because it's hard as an artist with the pressures and touring and so forth, that you're always, trying to stay fresh becomes a big challenge. And that's why they went off into India and dabbled in meditation and all these things, is to keep things fresh. So that's a big part of your life, but that's not, it's not a burden. That's not a task to keep things fresh. That's like pleasure, if you will. It's enjoyment. It's like, how do I get to play with life? Play differently today than I did yesterday. It's an invitation to keep exploring, keep playing and growing and learning new things. So when you make keeping things fresh your guiding principle, then you're in a good place, because you're on the leading edge of the happening, of the unfolding of life, and you're looking forward, and you're open to new moments coming in. So you're over the hump when that is your biggest problem, is to keep the amazingness going, to not just linger. That can be challenging too, and ride the coattails of your success and your abundance, but to actually keep up with the change, keep up with the happening, keep up with the co-creation, and just never rest on your laurels. That can be challenging too. But it's a good place to be, a good problem to have. Age is never an issue. Your internal calling, whatever your situation is, your life is where you are. It's where you're supposed to be. It's how your life is unfolded. It's how your learning has happened. It's one of these limiting beliefs and victimhoods is like, it's too late. It's I'm too old for this. I don't have the skills for this. You'll never receive messages from your internal GPS that are not in alignment with who you are and what your capabilities are. You're not going to start dreaming of winning a gold medal in the Olympics in the 100-meter sprint. That when you don't have the body or the appropriate physicality, or even the means for that, the genes, when you're listening to your inner voice, it's not going to send you a message like that that is in complete incongruence with what you're meant to do. You don't have to wonder about your purpose. It's not a mental choice or decision. And wherever you are in life, as long as you stay connected and in tune with your inner guidance system, it's going to tell you exactly what you need to do today, in this moment. And it's going to be appropriate and tangible and real and within reach. Sometimes you have to grow, of course. You have to work to get to your calling. It's calling you to it. Means you're not quite there yet. Means you still have to put in some sweat equity, some labor to get there. But it will guide you. It will not leave you hanging or leave you desiring things that are just absurdly not aligned with you. So keep listening to your inner voice. That's all you've got to do. And be aware of, don't try to shut down thoughts or these other thoughts that contradict and try to make you feel less than. Just observe them, notice them, because you have to allow them to come and go. You have to allow these naysayer thoughts to arise and pass. If you shut them down, if you push them away, you keep them stuck, they get louder. In fact, you fuel them, and then they have these little baby thoughts that come along in their wake, and now you have to deal with a whole slew of them, a whole army of negative thoughts that are attacking you. Again, this is the being at war with yourself. So just stay present and in tune, and really tune into yourself. If you're stuck in some kind of situation in life, doesn't matter what. You want more of this, you want better that, you need change in one area or another. And you're looking for answers. The answer is always found in stillness. It's always finding a quiet corner, just on your couch, or get in your car if your apartment is too noisy, somewhere where it's quiet. And go within, be still, focus on your breath. We'll do this now in our today's meditation. And see what comes up. And usually the first thought that arises from within, it's not a mental chatter thought, but the actual message and inner knowing that comes up is the accurate one. It happens very quickly. And you know it's true usually. And then the mind tries to kick in and talk you out of it again. But that's the trick, is to stay with that inner knowing. It just tells you what you need to do. It's that simple. Yes. And then your life unfolds in a way that you can never imagine. You cannot imagine your best life. The mind is just too limited of a tool. We get so upset that the world is constantly getting in the way of our best life, when we don't realize we cannot imagine our best life. All right, with that said, let's find a comfortable position. And spine straight, bones stacked. And with our eyes and mouth closed, let's focus our attention on the incoming and outgoing breath at the entrance of your nostrils. If you have trouble locating your breath, you may breathe slightly harder once or twice. And once you feel the touch of your breath, return to natural breath, normal breath. Let the detail of your breath pull you in closer, closer into the present moment. If your breath is shallow, let it be shallow. If it's deep, let it be deep. If it's more in the left nostril, let it be the left nostril. If it's more in the right nostril, let it be the right nostril. Or if it's in both nostrils, let it be both. Notice the temperature of the incoming breath. Notice the temperature of the outgoing breath. Notice if there's a difference. Notice the pace of the incoming breath. Notice the pace of the outgoing breath. Notice if there's a difference. Notice the length of the incoming breath. Notice the length of the outgoing breath. And notice if there's a difference. Notice the space at the end of your incoming breath. Notice the space at the end of your outgoing breath. Notice the transition. And whenever you find that your mind has wandered, simply notice it. And without resistance, without frustration, but with full acceptance, bring your attention back to the incoming and outgoing breath at the entrance of your nostrils. Natural breath. Normal breath. Observing your breath as it is, without wanting it to be different. And once you feel ready, you can return your attention to the room. Gradually blink open your eyes. Relax your body. Wiggle your toes. Notice your environment. Notice yourself in your environment. Notice the energy in your body. Notice your aliveness. Thank you for all the sweet comments. Wishing everyone a great week ahead. Stay connected to your inner peace. And we'll see you next time.